So, my friends, welcome you all. Understanding, knowledge, awareness, experience, plus reasoning. That is how the Eastern wisdom says they all go together. They have to go together. I have an experience without which I cannot explain logically, it falls short of the truth. I put logic and I don't have any experience, that is also not the knowledge and understanding. That has to be made clear. We should put the reasoning, we should find the logic. Logic means cause and effect relationship. So the time comes when we see there is an ultimate cause. Why it is an ultimate cause? You cannot find any other cause behind. That ultimate cause is the pure consciousness, and that is what the real self is. So then we allow the mind to move into that state all the time. When it moves all the time, we live, think, and speak out of the peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. That is what is the journey of the Eastern wisdom, especially for those who are higher level of seekers. So this master always communicates with us that understand. So what happens, by understanding, you get rid of the many impurities. One time listening, no, constant listening until the mind changes, until we reach to a state of awareness where we see, yes, I have found it. I have found it. Eureka. So that is what I have taken up the chapter number 6, and there is one metaphor, and he explains in detail that this metaphor, if we understand it, we apply it in our daily life, we will be there in the highest state of mindfulness. You know DUI? Now we all know DUI in America. Huh? Driving under influence. Sure, driving under influence of alcohol and blood alcohol content. So normally the cops find out. They find out 0.08% here or higher, something 0.01% or higher, something they have. So in the morning it flashed into my mind. So we also have MIC, mental ignorance content, instead of BAC. So it just came to my mind. And then what about DUI? It is living under ignorance. LUI. So how much I have MIC? Mental ignorance content. And LUI, living under ignorance. So who notices? Who catches me? Find out who catches me. Your relations, your friends, your honey, the entire world, the way you think, speak, and act in the world. You blame someone, I am alarmed if someone comes to me and blames. Living under ignorance. So you see that you have to understand that part. That is causing you, because the moment you start blaming and complaining, your ignorance, mental ignorance content is going to increase sooner or later. And then ultimately you are going to suffer. And that is why the first treasure out of the 6 treasures, Sama, will not enter into your life. It was just for the sake of understanding. Remember, mental ignorance content, how much it is, greater it is, you have a problem of tiredness and fatigue and anxiety and duality and blame and complaint and reaction. So you are living under ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of the suffering. So go back to our metaphor. So this master plays with the metaphor in the entire journey of reaching to that state of awakening even by listening and understanding. So he says there is an infinite space, infinite boundless space that has no division. This represents singular, undivided consciousness. That is we are. We are consciousness. That is the real self. But what we feel a ghatakasha. It is Sanskrit known as ghatakasha, or English translation is pot space. The space enclosed within a pot. This represents the consciousness reflected in the body. Consciousness reflected in the body. Through my eyes, through my fingers, and I'm talking and you are listening. Consciousness is reflected in that pot space. Or you can say the body contained within consciousness. Why I say body contained within the consciousness? Because the space is outside and the space is inside. I believe you got it. Now you put the water into that pot space. The space reflected in the water contained in a pot. So there is a space. If you put the water, the space is also reflected in that water. This consciousness reflected in the mind. That is the reflected consciousness. That is our mind, in which the thought occurs, in which all the thought, blame, complaint, praise, pleasure, pain occurs. And then in the same way we have Meghakasha, the cloud space. So that cloud represents the entire world is reflected in the consciousness. So let us see the correlation with our daily living. So first is the infinite space, the endless space that contains all the galaxies in the universe, no limit, no boundary to this space. That pervasive space that exists both within and without. Within and without. All the manifestations. That is what we can say the supreme consciousness. All the religions talk about it in a different form. They are the gods and goddesses. It is not confined. That is why we say it is all pervading. That is why we say it is omniscient, omnipresent, etc., etc., long list. Now, the space within the pot means the consciousness within this body-mind complex is the individual consciousness. What a great metaphor. The finite space contained within a clay pot. The walls of the pot limits and enclose the space within. So I identify with the body and mind. I say that I'm sitting here. I'm not there at your house. I'm not with you. So it is happening because of superimposition of this body-mind complex. The space inside one's body which hosts the breath, the vital energies, the organs, the space seems separate. The space inside me seems separate due to the limiting container of the physical body. But the fact is that it is not. So these are the two, at the micro level, at the macro level. So at the micro level, we say we are the real self. At the macro level, we say we are one with the supreme consciousness. It is the same. There is no difference. We are just understanding the metaphor. I have repeated because I need to repeat it so that you remember. Now the third and the fourth are delusion. We have to remove this delusion. That is why he says there is a metaphor. The pot space remains the pot space. But if you put the water, it becomes a water space. So that is what the reflected mind is. That is what the mind is. Through the mind, I see you. blame and complain you. I say you are crazy, you are good, you are bad. But otherwise, that pot space does not change at all. So that is what the water space is. So space that appears to be captured, the space that appears to be captured within that pot space, vessel of water, the reflection makes space seems bounded. So that is what the mind is, the space reflected in the surface of the mind, which creates appearance of the thoughts, emotions, memories, feeling, etc. So that is what creates the ignorance. The same way, at the individual level, it is the water space. At the universal level, it is the cloud space. In that cloud space, we see the people, objects, buildings, skyscrapers, our house, my house, your car, my car, long list. So now we see that out of the four spaces, so-called the spaces, there is only one space. Similarly, I see that you have an individual consciousness, I have an individual consciousness. It is because of the ignorance. So I have to understand where is the ignorance and how to get rid of that ignorance, so that I can see that it is the same consciousness in you and the me. It is not only same, but it is only one. It is only one. So my friends, if your MIC is 90%, not possible. Not possible to understand, even if you say intellectually I have understood. In the last session with the Danish group, one person says that, no, I have intellectually I understand, but I don't experience it. So your mental ignorance content is 90%. At least 10% you intellectually understand. And you are living under the influence of ignorance. That is what I say, LUI. Living under ignorance. What comes the next question? The next question comes, the why purity of the mind, discernment and dispassion are required to use logic on the path of the self-discovery. I cannot use the right logic if I don't live in discernment and dispassion. Ask the question why. We have go on asking the question. The science always asks the question what? What is the process? What is the mechanism? We always ask the question what? So if you get lost in the process, then you cannot find the real self. The process demands change, and what is constantly changing cannot be the real self. So we have a different approach. So go ahead. Purity of the mind, having a clear and uncluttered mind allows one to think and reason without any distortion and biases. That is what we do in experimental, research experiment in the science. Unbiased. We choose, those who have studied science, they know, we choose a fixed variable. We have those under the protocol. We have a research protocol. Jerry must be aware, and yes, Christina is aware, who have studied science, or those who have studied. The world is constantly changing. In that world of the change, I'm always available. That I am is not the body mind. That I am is not the thought. That I am is not the hatred. That I am is not the attachment. That I am is consciousness. That I am is that can happen only, I told you, when we have that purity of the mind. So there is a clear distinction between the object and the subject, first level. And then we have a clear understanding whether it is the knowledge of an object or it is object of knowledge. In Eastern wisdom, that is what we see the cognitive ability. In modern psychology, the cognitive ability is different. It all pertains to the science. It all pertains to the objective reality, even though we claim it is a subjective. That is a part of our personality. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That is I am, that Om is I am. And there we experience which that is objective. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your awareness on the right hand, your awareness on the left hand. Lift your both your palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences, bring the hands down. We'll share our experiences. Any question? Obviously, you're most welcome. How are you, Stephen?
Good, thank you, sir. I'm grasping the object and subject in all of this, these learnings. Today's was this whole focus on knowledge, and I kept saying to myself that separating and understanding the knowledge, that the knowledge comes with from an unbiased place, with eliminating past impressions and interpretations of that knowledge and just accept it as it is. And it really set the tone for my just settling in. I just fell into a very deep meditation of, I heard you. I can't tell you what you were saying, but it was just a very calm and relaxing non-practice.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. How are you, David?
Thank you, sir. Similar to Stephen, just the profoundness is the only word I can use to describe it between objective and subjective, and it's like my mind was going back and forth between objective and subjective the entire meditation. But at some point, kind of like Stephen, I just got deep into the meditation and heard the Om Shanti at the end and came out. It was wonderful.
Yes,
So,
yes.
profound.
Profound. It happens because your mind picks up the simple understanding, and then it goes deeper and deeper. Then it finds I am is always present. And I am is always present. It has to be a subject. It cannot be an object because object is always changing. But why we claim object becomes the subject. MICLUI. How are you, Jay? Remember this abbreviation.
Thank you, sir. I like your MIC and LUI. That's good. I'm going to use it. The meditation was really deep, and the mind doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
But I can use the mind as my instrument and have it very tuned in to who I am.
That is the entire summary of today's talk. Mind claims this is my experience, so mind further claims through the thought, which is an I thought, which is a false I, that this is my experience. You hurt me, but the consciousness as such cannot be hurt. That is the real I. But the mind claims, I am hurt. Yes, that is a wonderful summary. Yes, Brandy, you can also teach MIC and LUI to your students. If they say, no, I did not understand what you're saying, it is because of this.
I have to teach it to myself first, though.
Okay, that's really good.
I started my meditation with an application of the lesson by saying meditation of knowledge, right? And even just reversing
I love it.
like that was like an indicator of how deep the past impressions are. So my mind kept wanting to flip it back and like, no. And then as, I would just kind of cruise along, and as other things came up, I would apply that same twist. And it was an all the while like non-practicing, but it was an interesting perspective.
Yes. I'm explaining because the next verse is so deep. So I'm laying a foundation for the next verse. Otherwise, if I directly speak of translate the verse, we will not understand it. So you rightly said, that's a beautiful way. Meditation of knowledge or knowledge of meditation. So you juggle around, you contemplate and reflect which one is true. And one that is true will put you into immutable peace and calmness, and one that is not true will cause the suffering. How are you, Dennis?
Thank you. I'm calm, quiet, and contemplating on the chair of knowledge.
Yes, chair of knowledge or knowledge of chair. Because when I say knowledge of a chair, it is well accepted norm in every language in the world. So my mind does not need to inquire. So when I don't inquire, I'm already under the influence of an ignorance. No, let me inquire and find out. And when you inquire, there is a profound state of that consciousness is recognized and realized. How are you, Christina?
Thank you. Today's teaching had a much deeper impact. I could feel almost this boundless, limitless connection to the higher consciousness and awareness of the body being perceived as limit.
Yeah.
And the breaking up of that ultimately.
Yes. Yes, I know. I can understand that you picked up that unlimited consciousness and closed in the body. There we see our limitations. And once we are enclosed in our limitations, and then there is no end to the MIC. There is no end to this LUI. And that is where, we see you are good, I'm bad, and long list comes into our head. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so appreciative you all are understanding. I will not use the word trying to understand. That is also a misnomer. So how are you, Terry?
To be in the I am is and then there's the I am, and then there's everything else.
Is the object.
And to be in that awareness.
Yes.
Even for a moment.
Yes.
It was such a relief. It was so wonderful.
Yes. So, yeah. It's so wonderful. You rightly said when I say even this moment, the time is subjective to the mind. The world is objective to the mind. And there we fall into ignorance. Because the time is subjective. So my mind says this is I am. So it creates a false I. And then it false I says I am 65 years old.
Oh.
There is no I am ageless. How are you, Ashok?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
So
you.
the meditation was good, and I want to know what is the difference between cognitive ability as per the modern science and what do you call other things?
Simple. Cognitive ability in modern psychology, because they do not see the difference between the mind and the consciousness. They say it is mental consciousness.
Consciousness, they say.
Yeah, consciousness and the mind are one, but here in Eastern wisdom we say our cognitive ability says that consciousness is not the mind. So there are still a lot of confusion in modern science as to the seat of consciousness. Someone says the seat of consciousness at the back of my head. Someone says in the front. So there are divergent, I think Jerry knows, there are divergent views, and Christina even knows. They both belong to the streams of the science. So, and there are even hundreds of concepts. There are more than 200 psychologists until now. So they more talk about the objective orientation, behavior, psychology, behavior model. Only one a little bit talks about Robert Esaghioli, who talks about psychosynthetic model. So perhaps, he must have studied. Otherwise, the Freud, Adler, Jung, they all talk about this entire journey is totally different. So our cognitive ability is consciousness, and that consciousness is I am. In modern psychology, their cognitive ability based on behavior model, personality, attitude, behavior, and characteristics and the traits. And these traits belongs to the mind. These traits do not belong to the consciousness.
सर कोई हिंदी में वर्ड क्या है इसका कॉग्निटिव एबिलिटी का हिंदी में
He is asking what is the exact Hindi Samaj.
Samaj.
Ah,
Understanding.
yeah. Hindi word is samaj. I got it.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. That is all for today. We will meet again.
Namaste, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.